So, Theresa May is set to be going on the 7th of June. Now, I'm a little bit skeptical. A number of sources have come out and said this, but we've also had leaks that Theresa May was going to go at Christmas. So, I'm going to wait until it actually happens before I will start believing it. But I do want to go into the potential ramifications of whoever follows her. Now, I've already done a video on potential candidates, briefly highlighting them and showing just how fucking appalling they are. But let's pretend for the moment that she gets replaced by a hardline Brexiteer like Boris Johnson. Now, I bring up Boris Johnson because while having a conversation with a friend the other day, a man who doesn't really follow politics, his opinion of Boris is fairly positive. And the response was, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? Or words to that effect. But here's the problem. Boris Johnson is a failure of a human being. The only reason he's in Parliament right now is because he was born into an incredibly wealthy family and he went to Eton with all the other toffs. This man hasn't actually done anything positive. In fact, let's not forget that it's because of Boris Johnson that Nazim Radcliffe is sat in an Iranian prison cell. A British citizen is in an Iranian prison cell because of Boris Johnson. And the man has done absolutely nothing to get her out. The most worrying part for me, aside from Boris being a hardline Brexiteer, is the fact that the general conservative trope is to blame others for their own failures and to blame things that have nothing to do with it. For example, the British steel industry. The British steel industry is in a lot of trouble, and yet the Conservatives have managed to convince a few people that it's because of the EU and that the EU somehow won't let the British government bail out the British steel industry, which is absolute bullshit. It is not true. There is nothing true about it. The reason why the British government won't do it is because they're a Conservative government, and that's not what they do because they're not going to make a profit on it. Bailing out banks, absolutely. Just like that, because a lot of them have banker friends, have banker histories, past and previous employments working for banks in the banking sector. So of course, busy day for services today. So of course they're going to go for it. But British steel industry, no. Typically Conservatives don't have stock in that, so they're not going to bother with it. Yet, that kind of goes to highlight the point. You see, just this week, Theresa May blamed the Labour government for the sorry state of education while simultaneously promoting what they had done for education. That's, first off, it's hypocrisy, and it's a blatant lie. You can't blame something that was 9 years ago for the sorry state you've put it in now. And yet, that's the kind of person Boris Johnson is. Boris Johnson is also the man, while he was Mayor of London, cut funding to fire and rescue. And then, we tragically had to go through the Grenfell Tower. And yet, while I can't say that's entirely because of Boris Johnson, there was a lot of factors in it. Issues were brought up to Boris in a very open debate about this. And his response was to fold his arms, act like a petulant little child, and insult people who were bringing up very real claims. My concern going back is that Boris Johnson will not only make a pig's ear of Brexit, and he'll make a hard Brexit as well, meaning we have absolutely nothing to do with the EU, because that's what a no-deal Brexit means. But he'll then blame the EU for the absolute shit show that he will be responsible for, and that the Conservatives are responsible for, and people will believe it. Cast your mind back to just after the referendum. The EU actually said everything is up for negotiation, but you have to fix the northern border. You have to fix the issue with the Irish border. Boris Johnson's response was it doesn't matter. Well, I've never been there, but it doesn't matter, does it? Same as Jacob Rees-Mogg. Same as every prominent Brexiteer, including Nigel Farage. That border, that's a massive fucking issue. It's not an issue. We don't need that at all, do we? Come on. And yet, none of these morons actually came up with a solution for it. The same as Dominic Raab only realised Dover's importance, it being the gateway to the UK, and then decided he was going to skulk away because, oh shit, it's actually a massive fucking issue and it can't be resolved with current government. I genuinely hope that the Conservatives are so divided that they cannot agree on a leader for the Conservative Party, because that will trigger a general election. But that's not a guarantee. They could go behind someone like Boris Johnson, like Michael Gove, like Dominic Raab. These are all very prominent players. Or maybe they'll get behind Esther McVey, as she's been trying to champion blue-collar Conservatives, which is exactly the same as the standard disgusting, repulsive Conservative Party, but they're trying to dress it up as the working man's Conservative. It could be any of these people, and yet every single one of them is a massive threat to the United Kingdom. Not to the wealthy, but to the people who are already suffering and who are going to be hit hardest by Brexit. And the worst part of all of this, which is what I've already said, they will manage to convince most people that it's not their fault. That it's the EU's fault. The Conservatives have fucked them over for a decade.